KXLQ, Bristol, Vermont, and WNYV, Whitehall, Glens Falls. It's 8 o'clock.
Good morning. This is Northern Light for Monday, November 13th. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe.
Communities throughout the region honored military personnel on Veterans Day. We caught up with a few service members in the area to hear what the day means to them.
It's one thing to say we have to complete the mission, but in the Navy there was a saying, sailors first, mission always, meaning you needed to take care of the people, and they need to know that you care about them and you care about their families.
Like many colleges nationwide, North Country Community College has seen its enrollment shrink by almost half over a decade. But enrollment is up after school leaders realized half the high school grads in Essex and Franklin counties don't have higher ed degrees.
Those were a couple of populations that we saw we could do folks for whom we could be more targeted in our outreach. And we began to be very explicit about finding ways to market and then support them.
And for Veterans Day weekend, our reporter Lucy Grindon headed out to the AmVets Post in Hewelton for karaoke night.
Every once in a while, I get the bug to sing.
All of that's coming up on Northern Light. Stick with us.
Broadcast of Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio is supported by Adirondack Experience, the museum on Blue Mountain Lake, open for holiday shopping on November 24th from 10 to 4 and online at theadkx.org. And by Apothecary Chocolates, making gourmet chocolates by hand from all natural herbs, botanicals, and tree syrups, apothecarychocolates.com.
This is Northern Light. I'm Monica Sandreski.
And I'm Todd Moe. Folks throughout the North Country remembered military personnel on Veterans Day on Saturday, and we caught up with a few residents to hear what the day means for them.
Yeah, I'm Bill Baker, and I'm from South Colton down here, New York. I wasn't in the service, but I have a lot of respect for, like during Vietnam and stuff, some of my friends died. When they come home, they committed suicide. Yeah, I go to visit their graves, my friends' graves and stuff. What I'm going to do right now, as a matter of fact, that's where I'm headed. I got 3 different spots I got to go.
Are they here in...
Yeah, Dickie Buckley was one of them. And Archie Trim and Rocky Burns. He got blowed up over in Vietnam, too. Yeah, so I make my rounds.
When you think of them, how do you feel?
Sad and kind of proud at the same time, you know, something right in between it all.
Yeah.
You know, you miss them all, but where would we be if they didn't go? I don't think it'd be near what we got now. They better appreciate what we got.
Oh, yeah, I'm Stan Francis. I'm from Colton, New York.
I'm Cody Francis from Colton, New York, too.
But you just went to boot camp?
Yeah, I just finished.
He just graduated Thursday afternoon. So we Paris Island, South Carolina.
It was tough, but I met a lot of good guys from like all over the East Coast. It was pretty cool. I always knew I wanted to go in the military, and then my grandpa was in the Marines, my dad was in the Air Force.
I mean, I'm very proud. Best thing I ever did in my life was going in the military. And, besides these two. But once I got in the military and they taught me how to be a man, how to be a person, and just the camaraderie and being part of a group. Yeah, it was great. It was some of the best times I had. You know, and I can see that in him. Just after basic training, he's like a completely different person.
Really?
Yeah, very polite. Makes his bed.
Yeah, they made you make your bed every morning, so I got good at that.
Yeah, but it changes you.
Yeah, for
In a good way.
Hi, my name is Laurel Bro. I'm a retired Navy captain. I've lived in the area since 2013. I served on active duty for 36 years. I spent about 14 years at various overseas locations. And I think for me, what I always think about are the people that I served with, the people that worked with me, for me, or people that I reported to. And those relationships and the jobs that we had were the things that really bound us together. I worked with a lot of enlisted sailors, and, I feel that we really need to do our part to support them. And it's one thing to say, we have to complete the mission. But in the Navy, there was a saying, sailors first, mission always, meaning you needed to take care of the people. And they need to know that you care about them and you care about their families. So I've always wanted to have a strong connection and bond with the people who worked for me. And I wanted to make sure that we were doing right by them and their families so that when we did have to go somewhere, when we did have a mission where they were going to be separated from their loved ones, they could go knowing that they were going to be taken care of, that everything was okay at home.
Can you describe one of those relationships?
Well, I had this one young man who worked for me. In the Navy, you had to pass a physical fitness test twice a year. And this young man, he was borderline, and the Navy was ready to discharge him because he had trouble maintaining his weight and staying within the guidelines. And at the time, I used to jog a lot, and I started working out with him. I think he was a E4 at the time. He was married, had kids. So it would have been really difficult for him, a financial hardship, if he was then discharged from the Navy, had to go and find a job, and who knew how that would have impacted his family situation. And so we would go jogging after work because it just holds up so many things when you're not able to pass the physical fitness test. And so it was just this trickle-down effect. So we would go jogging and we would say honor, courage, commitment. That was the Navy's values. Honor, courage, commitment. And we would just keep going. Honor, courage, commitment. And he was just one person that, really stood out to me.
And he passed his physical?
Oh, yes, he passed. He's still on active duty when I left that duty station. So, yes, that was a really good thing because I knew he was struggling and he didn't know how to make it to get past that hurdle and just keep putting one foot in front of the other.
That was Bill Baker, Stan and Cody Francis, and Laurel Brault. This story was produced by Monica Sandreski.
Communities throughout the North Country honored military personnel this weekend at Veterans Day celebrations. Members of the Ogdensburg VFW laid wreaths in front of memorials. The Lake Placid American Legion raised 6 flags in honor of 6 local veterans who have died. They include Roland White, Hank Trombley, John Peters, Bill Kelly, James Statz, and Betty Jean Trantham. And the Saranac Lake Fish and Game Club unveiled a new plaque at Bloomingdale Avenue to honor World War II veterans. And in Heuvelton, the AmVets Post held a karaoke night. Lucy Grindon has the story.
It's almost 9 o'clock on a Friday night. Someone's racking pool balls by the entrance and people are chatting at the bar. But the main event tonight is the music.
My name is Shantae Paul. I live in Heuvelton, New York.
Paul says she loves coming here after work on a Friday to let loose.
Every once in a while, I get the bug to sing.
Who do you see here when you come?
Oh, pretty much everybody in Heuvelton. I mean, everybody's pretty tight-knit here, so everybody knows each other. Even if they're not members, they still come and they hang out and have a good time, so.
Why is AmVets important for the community in Heuvelton?
They do a lot for the community. A lot of the people that are members or that come here a lot are elderly, so it gives them a place to kind of socialize and stay active.
AmVets hosts community meals, organizes parades, and gives money to help the families of veterans when they fall on hard times. 2 guys sitting towards the back point to a woman perched on a bar stool.
I am Linda Carpenter. I am a prior Marine, but they always say once a Marine, always a Marine.
Carpenter currently fills 3 different jobs at the MVets post. She's the commander, first vice, and finance officer. She served in the Marines during the Vietnam War.
I went in 1968 in June, and I got out in August of 71. They wanted me to re-enlist. I said, nope, I'm not going to do it, not for the good old boys. Back then, they didn't want women in the service, especially the Marines. A lot of them thought that women weren't capable. There's a few that I very mouthfully let know that I was capable, and I probably could have been kicked out for it, but I didn't care at the time. I told them. I had a lieutenant colonel that was my boss, and when I came in one day and was very upset, he made sure that the whole base, Marines and everybody, found out you don't treat women like that. The person that gave me the hard time found out.
What had happened when that guy you said gave you a hard time? What did he do?
Well, I was delivering a gyroscope for an aircraft, and he decided when I walked in the door he's going to slap me on the tush. And I turned around, and I was a corporal, and he was a sergeant, and I hit him with a fist right in the jaw. Then I asked him to sign the sheet for the supplies, and I walked out.
Left a good job in the city, working for the man every night and day.
When Carpenter isn't running meetings at the MVets post, making sure member dues are paid, or taking care of the bills, she spends a lot of time just hanging out there. She says it's a place where veterans know they'll be welcomed and appreciated. Lucy Grindon, North Country Public Radio.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. It's 8:12. Good morning. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up, many towns have lost their general stores over the years, but just ahead, a story on how one has opened in the tiny hamlet of Blackbrook. That's coming up in just a few minutes, right here on Northern Light.
Northern Light is supported by the Village Mercantile in Saranac Lake, established in 2011 with a mission of community-fueled solutions with essentials for home, camp, and gift-giving. VillageMerc.com, anything but general. Music by Dan Duggan out of Lake Clear.
Typically, a bad economy is good for community colleges. People who lose their jobs go back to school. That happened at North Country Community College in Essex and Franklin counties after the Great Recession in the early 2010s. Enrollment peaked at almost 1,300 students. But that didn't happen when the economy cratered during the pandemic.
You know, the typical rebound we would see in economic downturns hasn't happened for us.
Today, NCCC President Joe Keegan says enrollment at NCCC is about half what it was after the recession a decade ago. The college is facing what higher education across the North Country and the nation is dealing with, declining enrollment due to a low unemployment rate and people weighing the burden of student debt. But NCCC is seeing a glimmer of hope, a bump of about 40 students this year. Keegan spoke with David Summerstein about the college's efforts to recruit and keep students.
We saw that students were being challenged at navigating the college experience, right? Moving out of high school or moving from career into college, it's become a different animal over the last 10 years as we've become much more digital savvy. So we developed a North Country Navigator program that really helps students from the moment that they become interested in the college to the time that they're in seats, and then supporting them in those first few weeks as they're here to make sure they've got everything they need to be successful. So that was really helpful. And that prevented what we oftentimes see as a slide in the first 3 weeks of enrollment. Our enrollment stayed consistent, which was great.
Who were the people who you feel like you weren't reaching in recruitment?
So when we look at our data, overwhelmingly in Essex and Franklin County, we look at who are the people for whom having a college education might be a benefit, right? And there are two groups that stand out. One of them are folks age 25 and older, for who do not have an associate's degree or higher. And the numbers there are, they range depending on the county between 60 and 68% of folks in our sponsoring counties don't have a higher education degree, associates or higher. So that was one market. We term them non-traditional students. But then when you look even a little bit below that age range, between 18 and 24, the numbers are still really high. They're above 50%, somewhere between 50 and 60%, depending on the county. So those were a couple of populations that we saw we could do I wouldn't say a better job, but they were folks for whom we could be more targeted in our outreach. And we began to be very explicit about finding ways to market and then support them, both of those groups in over the last couple of years. In addition to being difficult to reach, adult students don't congregate in any single location, unlike high school students, right? When in high schools, we can go to high schools and recruit. Once you get out of high school, there's no singular place people are gathering. So being able to connect with people means multiple modalities. It also means that we're probably missing some of who we're trying to connect with. And some of that seemed to be realized when we were able to offer more online accessibility. Because if you're in St. Regis Falls, you've got to travel a long way to come to Saranac Lake or Malone. Or, you're somewhere between Saranac Lake and Ticonderoga, you could be looking at a 45-minute drive. So having more online accessible programming, and again, in areas where there are high needs for workforce, makes sense.
To this overall question of enrollment and this sort of nationwide decline in student enrollment, and, you hear a lot more of people, really weighing very carefully, especially with student debt, weighing very carefully the value of going into the workforce versus the value of getting an education. I'm wondering, as a president at a community college, how much are you having to fight to make the argument for college to keep that enrollment up?
I'm struggling with the word fight because I don't think it's a matter of fight for us. Really, it's a matter about laying out for people in ways that they can see, understand. In the North Country, we're accessible, right? That's part of the mission of community colleges. Be accessible, make sure that higher education is available to people wherever they reside in the state. And so we live in the communities that we work in, right? So when there are student successes in our communities, it raises all of us. It raises our hopes, our hearts. You see families transformed, you see student lives transformed, you see communities get people that are well prepared. You're not just touching the individual life, but you're having a significant impact on the community. All of that, I think, is part of the value proposition of community colleges.
Joe Keegan is president of North Country Community College with campuses in Saranac Lake, Malone, Ticonderoga, and Akwesasne. He spoke with David Summerstein. A former former female inmate of the Jefferson County Jail has filed a $20 million lawsuit against the county and the sheriff's department. The lawsuit claims the woman was sexually abused by a corrections officer in 2015 while she was incarcerated. Jefferson County Attorney David Paulson told WWNY-TV that the county denies the lawsuit's claims and, quote, does not believe this occurred.
North Country nurses can now pursue higher medical education within the region. SUNY Canton, which already has a robust nursing program, is now offering a remote nursing doctorate through SUNY Upstate Medical University in Syracuse. The degree covers a number of roles, including nurse practitioners and nurse midwives. In the past, students had to travel outside the North Country to pursue a doctorate.
And last week marked the 7th week in a row that gas prices have fallen nationwide. As reported by the Plattsburgh Press-Republican newspaper, the average price in New York State is $3.66 a gallon right now, which is 17 cents lower than a month ago. In the North Country, prices range from $3.30 to $3.89. The national average gas price is currently at its lowest since March, and prices are expected to continue to fall until the end of November.
You're listening to Northern Light here on North Country Public Radio. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Coming up in just a minute, what it takes to open a general store. Then stick around after the show for Bird Note. That's coming up at 8:42. But first, Todd has a look at the weather for us.
Increasing clouds, and the Weather Service says a chance of a light wintry mix today. Highs around 40 this afternoon. East-southeast winds 5 to 10 miles per hour. Cloudy with maybe some light snow showers overnight tonight. About a 70% chance of a light wintry mix later today and some light snow showers overnight tonight and then into tomorrow as well. A high near 40 on Tuesday. Wednesday, partly cloudy, a high near 50. Thursday and Friday, highs in the 50s with a chance of rain on Friday. Saturday, the extended forecast calls for partly cloudy and a high in the mid-40s. Right now, partly cloudy, 24 degrees in Canton.
Across the North Country, small towns have been losing their general stores for decades. But today, a story on how one opened and is thriving in the teensy hamlet of Black Brook, which is a little bit north of Whiteface in Clinton County. Amy Feiereisel has our story. She originally visited the general store this past winter.
When you walk into the Black Brook General Store, the first thing that you'll notice are the huge stained glass windows that line the walls.
That's actually sold us on the building, where the stained glass windows, they're gorgeous.
That's Michelle Timmons. She and her husband, Robbie, bought this building in 2020. It used to be a church. It's big, steepled, and covered in white clapboards. Robbie's brother is the one that noticed when it went up for sale.
We were having family dinner. He said, that church is for sale. It'd be a great store. We both went home. We both looked at it online. We said, well, let's just go look at it. It was not in our life plans to open a store, but this is where we're at now.
The Timmons grew up nearby in Peru and have lived in the North Country their whole lives. Michelle teaches at SUNY Plattsburgh. Robbie worked in construction. He says they knew what a store could mean for this area.
With the price of fuel nowadays, if you can do something closer, you're better off, right? I mean, it's definitely helped out.
Yeah, it's an extra 15, at least 10 to 15 minutes to any other store. So, yeah, it's a big change for them.
Tammy Seguin walks in and makes a beeline for the deli.
Hi there.
Hi.
I have a funny question for you.
Okay. My name is Amy. Seguin lives just up the road. How long have you lived here?
I've lived here for 10 years, but I'm originally from here. We had lived in Florida previous for 20 years and then just moved back.
Okay, she remembers the last store in Black Brook. It closed 27 years ago.
There was a store right here in the corner, yes, Havens.
She says this new store is a welcome addition.
You got a lot of campers going in and out, and I thought it'd be great for everybody, and it's easier for us. I think it has opened up a lot of doors. It really has. It's great because you have a lot of seniors up here that they don't have to go so far to go get what they need.
Packed into the old church, which has soaring ceilings and an intact choir platform, is a deli, beer cave, and groceries. There's also a local artisan area and hardware aisle, which the Timmins say is much appreciated, as the nearest hardware stores are in Plattsburgh and Lake Placid. Last but not least is their What You Forgot camping wall.
You can still remember a camping trip to Taylor Pond where the regular flies were so bad that we only stayed one day. So we have fly swatters for sure.
The store is running like clockwork now, but it took a lot of elbow grease to get here. The Timmins closed on the building the first week of March 2020.
Like, we walked in, they had taken all the pews out, so it was literally just an open space that we were able to work with, so thankfully we didn't have to do a lot of, demolition.
Right.
But it was March of 2020. There was a pandemic on, and because of pandemic construction rules, only Michelle, Rob, and their 2 daughters were able to work on the store for the first 6 months.
We spent our pandemic here remodeling.
7 days a week, about 8 to 10 hours a day.
Poor Robbie.
We managed to get everything painted. All the floor was down. The beer cave, the bathroom, we all built, the 4 of us, and stood the walls.
Eventually, they were able to get electricians and plumbers in. They opened in February of 2021 and have 5 employees. They say so far business has been good. There are lots of seasonal summer camps in this area, Silver Lake, Fern Lake, and bikers will stop in and buy soft serve. Winters are quieter, but while I'm there on a Tuesday afternoon in the dead of January, there's a consistent flow of traffic.
We have DEC officers that come and eat up here. We had a crocheting group that was here for a few hours on Sunday. They came in and got sandwiches and crocheted for a few hours.
While the Blackbrook General Store definitely scores style points for being in a church, the truth is it's not all that unique. But here's what makes it special. It's kept a historic building from rotting away and brought new life to it. Also, a store in a tiny community is a lot more than a store, especially in a region where small towns have been losing local businesses for decades. Allie is the Timmins' 21-year-old daughter, and she works here full-time. She says it's a staple in many people's days.
Definitely, all of the locals we appreciate them so much. They're great. I see some people twice a day, all day, every day.
She says local support has been huge, and working here has kept her around.
I love it. I think it's so fun. Everyone always says, they're like, oh, you're still here? I'm like, yeah, I don't know where else I would go. I'm learning how to run a business. I mean, there's no better experience than just doing it, and my parents are teaching me how to do that pretty well.
It's a lot of work. I mean, it really is. Happy customers. And
we become friends with a lot of the local people. They're in here on a very regular basis, and the community is amazing. So we've been really lucky to be a part of this community.
And it seems the community is pretty happy to have them, too. Amy Feiereisel, North Country Public Radio, Blackbrook.
Welcome you ladies and gentlemen, listen to my song. I'll sing it to you right, but you might think it's wrong. May make you mad, but I mean no harm. It's just about the renters on Penny's farm, and it's hard times in the country down on Penny's farm. Well, now you move out on Penny's farm. You're playing a little.
This is the group Kanan Stark and Orion Cribbs. This Adirondack-based bluegrass duo has performed in Canton, Queensbury, Cafe Lena in Saratoga Springs, and the Tannery Pond in North Creek. And this week, they're headed to 2 nursing homes, the Glens Falls Center later today, and the Wesley Community in Saratoga Springs tomorrow. Then again at the Mosen House Restaurant in Saratoga on Wednesday. This is their song, Down on Penny's Farm.
Down on Penny's farm. Now George Penny, he comes into town with a wagon load of peaches, not a one of them sound. He's gotta have his money or somebody's check. You pay him for a bushel and you only get a peck, and it's hard times in the country down on Penny's farm. George Penny's runners, they come into town with their hands in the pockets and their heads are hanging down. They go into the store and the merchant will say your mortgage is due, and I'm looking for my pay, and it's hard times in the country down on Penny's farm. It goes down in your pocket with a trembling hand. I can't pay you all, but I'll pay you what I can. Then to the telephone, the merchant makes a call to put you on the chain gang. You don't pay it all, and it's a hard times in the country down on Penny's farm.
That's Northern Light for this Monday, November 13th. I'm Todd Moe.
And I'm Monica Sandreski. Be well.